Hey guys, so this is going to be a part 2 video from last week, I believe, just about not knowing. I want to go a little deeper into it, say some things to round out the subject, maybe help you get closer to what I'm pointing towards, because it's something that you can kind of initiate, and at the same time it's something that just starts to dawn on you and becomes kind of a natural state of less assumption. Some people may have referred to this as natural humility or kind of just a natural state of awe and wonder and openness. Um, so, again, to get into a place of not knowing, you could say allows one to be less reactive, more open and receptive to new things, not so fixed on the old things that they thought were true. As a result, you're holding on to them, and in such, if you're holding on to such certain ideas, you're more reactive. Because you could say, like, if you really don't know something, then what is there to react to? Wouldn't you say it's generally when you know something about another person and why they're up to it, what they're doing, that you react to them? Because if you know the language they're speaking, you can hear it, then you react. But if someone says something to you in another language that you don't know, you generally like, oh, that sounds interesting. What would you say to me? That was funny. What was that? What would you say? So you're not. If you don't know, you don't really react. And then even if you do know, like let's say you do know the language, you may not know someone's intentions behind the language or what they meant by it. But if you think you know, then you're like, oh well, that was kind of a jerkish thing to say. I know what you're up to. You were trying to insult me. Then so you knew, therefore you were reactive. This can take place also within like life. Like oh I know life's a shitty place. So like whenever things don't go your way, you're like yeah life's just shitty. That's just the way it is, and that's what you say to your friends. That's what you say to yourself. But yeah, you've taken a known position that you know that life is shitty, and in general it's because there's things that felt bad towards you or towards people that you cared about, and you maybe you made an overall assumption of like oh well that means this life is just crappy. Um, so again, how do you get into this place of not knowing? Well, maybe you just had an insight through this organic conversation, or video rather. Maybe you was like, oh yeah, there is more that maybe I assume than I need to. This can happen when you just start to like really like healthily pick apart your belief systems. Um, like maybe you've had psychotherapy or work with a psychologist, and they help you get into like your ideas of why you um, act the way you do, and maybe you come to like a place like oh it's because of my parents and the way they related to me, and then that answer like helps you feel at peace in some sort of way or gave some sort of resolution. Well, I would say like look further, like you may want to ask like well why did you have the parents you did? You may go I don't know, or like why do people have these kinds of emotions? You're like oh I don't know, or maybe why do you have emotions to begin with to have reactions? I mean these are funny questions, but you may start to see like oh I actually don't know. um, why is there an earth to begin with to have people with interactions that sometimes don't go the way that I like, that I feel a certain way? I don't know. Why do I have reactions to begin with? Why am I even here to begin with? Interesting question. I don't know. So again, like these kinds of questions, maybe they're called philosophical or of like they're questions that lead to reasons, and you can see like you can always ask questions, which generally have more questions, and when you can see that you might be like oh well like everything has an answer, and that answer leads to a question, and that's never ending, and it's like well why is that, and does that mean there's never an end to questioning? And is there ever a place you get to really knowing something? I was like, I don't know. And again, the state of like, I don't know can kind of emerge. And there can be kind of like a feeling of like awe, and at other times kind of insecurity, because you're like, it brings up this uncomfortableness of like, well, if I don't know, then I'm strange. If I don't know and I'm not acting the same way other people are because I'm not following common life drives, which are like people believe they need certain stuff to make them feel better, or to look good in front of other people, or to show them that they're competent and capable because they're able to be an earner for themselves. But if you can start to see, like, you don't really know what life's about and why you should be doing those things or why those things exist, you're kind of in a place of awe. And in that awe, you could say, like, there's, for some reason, an uncomfortability that can come up. It's like a rawness of, like, man, what the hell is then? And you're kind of in this place of, like, as I said, yeah, uncomfortability. There's no better way to put it. But then also it can flip in an instant, even when you're, like, feeling really uncomfortable. Like for some reason, like, we can go from mad to uncomfortable to, like, oh, peace and openness and awe, and things just change kind of on the dime. And that could be like a scary thing and a wonderful thing, because then you start to notice, like, oh, emotions change. Oh, thoughts happen. Oh, I've made a decision. Oh, there's a cute girl that came in the room and I'm attracted. Oh, I gotta go out and make some more money because last week I barely made it. It's like these organic things start to happen. They feel more natural and like spontaneous and kind of their own natural accord, which you can't really nail down because you don't really know, and that's okay. So I hope you kind of are getting a feeling or a sense of what I'm pointing toward, because in that sense, you can't quite control it, but maybe it inspires you. It's awakened naturally in you, so to say, an insight, a potential new way to approach or choose or feel like choosing in the future. And hopefully that can build, and hopefully you can maybe jot this down or start a journal of things that have been insightful, that were inspiring, because there seems to be things in nature that through repetition become more consistent through repetition. Like the more you kind of rake with a shovel on some dirt, the more a hole starts to appear, and dig deeper and deeper. And the more you start to like think about certain things, they say it has an effect on this brain to have more of a consistency with that new pattern or habit or insight or way of thinking. And that's what you could call change or development or a new way of becoming. But again, that may not consistently happen, because as you may start to see, like, you can't consistently depend on what you think you know, because you don't really know. That's more of a tongue twister and a mind bender, but it's in vein of what we're talking about. Like, it's like, yeah, I can't really say more on that. Maybe it's not important. I think I've said enough in this video. But I hope it's useful. I hope something, as I said, sunk in. And with that, I'll leave you to have a wonderful day. All right, take care.